I stared at my wife's phone at 2 a.m., rage hardening into ice in my veins. The message preview glowed on the screen, "Still taste you on my lips. My name is Michael Greyson, and this is the night my 12-year marriage died." Lora lay beside me, sleeping peacefully, completely unaware that her secret had just been exposed. I carefully picked up her phone and walked to the bathroom. What I found destroyed me methodically. Explicit messages and photos between Lora and David Sloan, her so-called professional writing partner. Plans, declarations of passion, intimate moments that should have been ours alone. One message particularly burned into my brain: "Can't wait for one more night before you head home." Home. To me. To our marriage of 12 years. I took screenshots with steady hands despite the storm inside me. Then I placed her phone exactly where I'd found it and returned to bed. She wouldn't be back from San Francisco for 3 more days. Plenty of time for what I needed to do. Some men would scream, break things, call her immediately with accusations. Weak men. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of my emotional breakdown. No, my response would be much more powerful. The next morning, I made breakfast while Lora prepared for her flight. She chatted about finishing the Chinatown shots with David, completely oblivious to what I knew. "My flight's at 9, she said, checking her phone. "David wants to wrap up the series today." "David thinks a lot of things," I replied, not looking up from the eggs I was scrambling. She shot me a defensive look. "He's a professional partner, Michael." I finally looked at her then, letting a smile play on my lips that didn't reach my eyes. "Of course he is." I kissed her forehead goodbye, the same ritual we'd performed for years. "I love you," she said casually, like she had 1,000 times before. "Safe travels," I replied, already executing my exit strategy in my mind. Once her flight status showed departed, I moved with military precision. 20 years of firefighting had taught me the value of calculated action under pressure. I emptied exactly half our joint account, not a penny more, not a penny less. Packed one duffel bag with essentials. Called Fire Chief Reynolds with my resignation. Personal emergency. "Mike, you've got 3 weeks vacation saved up," he said over the phone. "This is bigger than vacation, Chief. I'm resigning." What the hell happened? Life happened. "I'll send the paperwork." I left a brief note for my brother Tommy, "Need to disappear for a while. I'm okay. Will contact when I can." Then I drove northwest with no destination beyond away from here. 11 months can strip a man down to his core. Living in near isolation, working with your hands, being removed from your former identity, it reveals who you really are beneath the titles and relationships. I landed in a small town near Flathead Lake, Montana, when my truck needed repairs. With limited cash, I found work at a sporting goods store, then later at the Lodge, an upscale resort where wealthy tourists paid premium rates for authentic wilderness experiences. Rachel Martinez, the lodge owner, hired me immediately after I demonstrated basic survival techniques. "These tech executives will pay $2,000 a weekend to learn how to make fire without matches," she explained. "You're competent and keep to yourself. When can you start?" Rachel was attractive, late 30s, confident and capable. She flirted occasionally but respected the clear boundaries I established. "Whoever she was," Rachel remarked once after I declined her dinner invitation, "she did quite a number on you. That obvious? You've got that look of someone who survived an explosion but is still checking for shrapnel. No rush. Some wounds need proper time to heal. Time I had in abundance. I built a new routine, up at dawn, physical work until exhaustion, minimal social interaction. I grew a beard, lost the softness city life had given me, gained muscle from daily labor. I started keeping a journal to organize my thoughts, processing everything without the noise of well-intentioned advice from others. I wrote about rage that ran cold rather than hot. About calculating precisely how to remove myself from a situation rather than destroying it. About strategic thinking rather than emotional reaction. I wrote until I understood my own power, the power of absence. I maintained radio silence on all fronts. No social media, no Google searches of her name. Complete severance was the only path forward. During my monthly calls with Tommy, he kept me informed. She's looking for you, Mike. Hired a private investigator. She knows why I left. She showed up at my place crying, claiming you disappeared without explanation. Wanted to know if you were safe. What did you tell her? That you're alive and that's all she gets to know. Good man, Tommy. What I didn't share with Tommy was that I'd found unexpected peace in this new existence. For the first time since meeting Lora, I focused entirely on my own path rather than accommodating someone else's journey. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd had to lose everything to reclaim my independence. December 18th. I remember the date clearly because it was the day she found me. I was checking in a family from Minnesota when the front door opened, bringing a blast of cold air and the last person I expected to see. Lora stood in the entryway, snowflakes melting in her hair, her face thinner than I remembered, eyes uncertain as they met mine. Time compressed. The family at the counter faded to background noise. My body instinctively tensed, ready for confrontation. "Room for one," she said quietly, approaching the desk after the family moved away. No dramatic greeting, no tears, just 3 practical words. I could have refused her, could have told her to leave, could have demanded how she found me. Instead, I methodically entered her information, swiped her credit card, and handed her a key. Cabin 8. Last one on the left path. Breakfast starts at 7. My voice remained level, giving away nothing. "Thank you," she replied, her fingers briefly touching mine as she took the key. She hesitated. "You look good, Michael." I offered no response, just a directional nod toward the cabins. I maintained my composure until reaching the staff bathroom, where my stomach heaved once in physical rejection of her sudden appearance. Rachel found me washing my face with cold water. "That woman who checked in, she's your past, isn't she?" she asked directly. I nodded once. "Want me to tell her we're overbooked? Make her leave?" I considered it briefly. "No. I've been running from this for almost a year. Time to face it head on." That night, sleep evaded me. I paced my cabin, calculating the distance between my door and cabin 8. At 3 a.m., I walked to the frozen lake edge, where the moon illuminated the ice and stars blazed overhead with winter clarity. I stood until the cold cleared my thoughts, focusing my resolve. By dawn, I'd made my decision. I would hear her out, say what needed saying, and continue forward with or without whatever closure she sought. Lora was waiting in the empty dining room when I arrived to prepare morning coffee. She sat with hands wrapped around a mug of tea, looking simultaneously familiar and foreign. "You found me," I stated, making coffee with precise movements, maintaining the counter barrier between us. "It took longer than I expected. You disappeared thoroughly." She studied me openly. "The beard suits you. Why are you here, Lora?" Direct. No preamble. She took a measured breath. "Not to beg forgiveness. Not to try winning you back. You deserve better than that." "What I deserved was a wife who didn't cheat," I responded, voice cutting like a blade. She flinched but maintained eye contact. "Yes. You did." The simple acknowledgement rather than excuses caught me off guard. Early rising guests began entering the dining area. I lowered my voice. We're not doing this here. I'm working until 3. Cabin 14 is empty for maintenance. Meet me there if you want to talk. She nodded, and I left for the woodshed where I spent the morning splitting logs with focused precision until my muscles burned with satisfying exertion. Cabin 14 smelled of pine cleaner and fresh paint. I built a fire efficiently, needing occupation for my hands. Lora arrived precisely at 3, now wearing jeans and a heavy sweater, hair pulled back in a simple ponytail like she used to wear before glossy magazine assignments changed her style. How did you find me? I asked immediately as she sat in an armchair. Does it matter? Humor me. My tone made clear it wasn't a request. She sighed. Your credit card. 1 transaction for gas in Missoula last January. By the time the investigator tracked it, the trail had gone cold. Then Tommy mentioned you were somewhere near Flathead. I've been searching the area for months, staying in different towns, showing your photo. A waitress in town recognized you. I nodded, mentally noting the security breach. I could disappear again within hours if necessary. Your turn, she said. Why leave like that, Michael? Why not confront me? I stared into the flames. What would confrontation have accomplished? You would have lied like you'd been lying for months. You'd have minimized it or somehow twisted it to blame me. Maybe promised it would never happen again. I fixed her with a direct gaze. But it wasn't a mistake, was it? It was a deliberate choice you made repeatedly. She didn't attempt denial. You're right. It wasn't a one-time thing. How long? 4 months. The number hit like a physical blow. 4 months of deception, coming home to me, sleeping beside me, all while carrying another man's touch. Did you love him? The question emerged before I could stop it. I thought I did, she admitted quietly. I convinced myself it was something meaningful, not just cheap betrayal. That made it easier to justify. And now I know it was neither love nor special. Just selfish destruction. I cut through her self-reflection. Spare me the victim narrative, Lora. It's not victimhood, it's truth, her voice hardened. David dumped me 2 weeks after you disappeared. Said things were too complicated now. The magazine dropped our project when rumors spread. I lost 3 other contracts. Had to sell our house. Am I supposed to feel sorry for you? No, you're supposed to understand that your disappearance was the most powerful response anyone has ever given me. Her eyes glistened. You didn't rage or threaten or try to hurt him. You simply removed yourself from the equation. Left me to face exactly who I'd become without the benefit of making you the villain. Outside, snow began falling, heavy flakes visible through the window. I'm not the same man who left Denver, I finally said. That person ceased to exist the night I saw those messages. I know. I'm not the same either. She reached into her bag and pulled out an envelope. I wrote everything down. Things I couldn't say directly. What happened with David, what happened after. You can read it or burn it. Your choice. She placed it on the table between us. I'm staying 3 days. Then I'll go and you'll never have to see me again if that's what you want. She stood to leave, pausing briefly. For what it's worth, Michael, and I know it means very little now, I've never regretted anything more in my life. After she left, I stared at the envelope for hours, watching shadows move across the cabin floor. Eventually, I picked it up and placed it unopened in my jacket pocket. Some truths required proper timing. That night in my cabin, I finally opened Lora's letter. 8 pages of her familiar handwriting, once intimate, now like receiving a message from a stranger. She detailed everything without excuses, How the affair began, how David made her feel valued in ways she hadn't recognized were missing, how excitement became addiction, how she compartmentalized. Then came the aftermath, David's immediate abandonment, the professional consequences, her parents' disappointment, the crushing realization that she'd traded substance for illusion. The final paragraph struck with precision. I don't expect or deserve forgiveness, but you should know that your silence was more powerful than any rage could have been. You forced me to judge myself without the distraction of your anger. It broke me in ways I needed to be broken. I read the letter 3 times, then went outside and split wood in the moonlight until my muscles demanded relief. The next day, I found Lora sitting alone on the lodge's back deck despite the biting cold, staring out at the frozen lake. I assessed the situation, then deliberately sat in the adjacent chair. I read your letter, I stated after a measured silence. She nodded, still looking at the lake. And nothing. It is what it is. You always did have a gift for directness. A slight smile touched her lips. Why come all this way? Why not just call? She turned to face me. Would you have answered if I called? No. There's your answer. Besides, I needed to see your face to know you're really okay. I'm not okay, I admitted, but I'm getting there. You seem stronger somehow. More definite. Losing everything has that effect. You strip life down to fundamentals. A wind gust sent snow swirling across the deck. Lora shivered. You should go inside, I advised. In a minute. She hesitated. Tommy misses you. He won't admit it, but he does. Tommy knows how to find me. He says the same about you. Maybe in the spring. It wasn't a commitment, but it was something. On the 3rd day, her final day, a massive snowstorm hit the region. The lodge lost power around noon, and we advised guests to remain in their cabins. I was helping Rachel distribute extra blankets when I realized Lora was nowhere to be seen. Her car remained in the lot, rapidly disappearing under fresh snow. She went for a walk early this morning, one of the housekeepers mentioned. Said something about wanting to see the North Trail before she left. The North Trail, 5 miles through dense forest, beautiful but dangerous during a storm. Even experienced hikers could lose orientation when landmarks disappeared under snow. How long ago? I demanded, already reaching for my gear. 4, maybe 5 hours. Rachel caught my expression. You're not going out in this. I have to. She doesn't know these woods. Michael, visibility is 0. Temperatures dropping. You could both end up dead. I'll take the emergency radio and GPS mark coordinates every quarter mile. I was already layering up. If I'm not back in 3 hours, call search and rescue. The moment I stepped outside, the storm's ferocity hit full force. Wind-driven snow stung any exposed skin, visibility extending barely 10 feet. I pushed through knee-deep drifts toward the North Trail. Under normal conditions, I could hike the entire trail in under 2 hours. In this weather, it took 45 minutes just to reach the first mile marker. I called Lora's name periodically, the wind swallowing my voice almost immediately. 2 miles in, I found her first sign, a red scarf caught on a branch. My focus sharpened. She was here somewhere, probably disoriented, possibly hypothermic if she'd been out for hours. Another half mile and I spotted footprints veering off trail, a classic sign of someone lost, likely trying to find shelter. The tracks led toward a cluster of large boulders forming a natural windbreak. As I approached, I saw a huddled figure pressed against the rock face, partially snow-covered. Lora's face was dangerously pale, lips blue-tinged. She was conscious but clearly in mid-stage hypothermia, shivering violently, speech slurred. "Michael," she mumbled. How did you find me? Tracking, I said simply, immediately unfolding the emergency thermal blanket and wrapping it around her. Can you walk? She tried standing, but her legs collapsed. Can't feel my feet. Not a problem. I've got you. I lifted her efficiently and secured her against my chest. Keep talking. Stay conscious. So stupid, she mumbled against my shoulder. Thought I'd be back before the storm hit. Less talking about mistakes. More focusing on staying awake, I directed, beginning the challenging return journey. Each step demanded maximum effort against wind and snow, my muscles working at capacity, carrying her through deepening drifts. Why did you come for me? She asked after what felt like hours. You could have let me disappear too. That's not who I am, I stated firmly. Never was. That's why I loved you, she whispered. Still do. I didn't respond, concentrating on navigating through near whiteout conditions. When the lodge's lights finally appeared through the snow curtain, relief nearly buckled my knees. Rachel and 2 staff members rushed out, taking Lora from my arms and hurrying her inside to the fireplace. I remained in the doorway, suddenly recognizing my physical limits, watching as they removed her wet layers and wrapped her in dry blankets. Her eyes found mine across the room, grateful, pained, filled with unspoken words. I turned away, needing distance to process what had just happened. Rachel found me later in the kitchen, methodically drinking coffee, still in my snow-crusted gear. She's going to be fine, she reported. No frostbite, just mild hypothermia. Doctor says she was lucky. Good. That was either incredibly brave or remarkably foolish, Rachel said, sitting opposite me. Probably both. She studied me closely. You still care about her. It's complicated. It always is. She squeezed my shoulder. She's asking for you. Room 3. I found Lora propped up in bed, color returned to her face, wrapped in several blankets. An 4-bag hung beside the bed for rehydration. Thank you, she said simply as I took the chair beside her bed. I would have died out there. What were you thinking, hiking with a storm approaching? I wasn't thinking tactically. Wanted one last look at the place that had become your sanctuary. She adjusted the blanket. Out there, when you found me, I said something. You were hypothermic. Altered mental state. That doesn't make it untrue. I do still love you. Never stopped. But that's my burden to carry, not yours. I stood, needing distance. You should rest. Wait, she called. There's something else you should know. David contacted me last month. Wanted to reconnect now that his new relationship had collapsed. Her voice hardened. I told him exactly where to go. He laughed, said I was being dramatic. I turned back, surprised by the controlled anger in her expression. That's when I knew I had to find you, she continued. Not to win you back, I understand that bridge is burned, but to tell you that you were right to leave as you did. It was the only way I would ever comprehend the magnitude of what I'd done. Thank you for telling me, I finally said. I'm not asking for another chance, Michael. I don't deserve one. I just needed you to know that at least one of us finally understands the cost. I nodded once, then left. The storm continued for 2 more days. On the afternoon the roads were finally cleared, I found her in the lobby, suitcase packed, settling her bill. Your car's been excavated, I said, approaching. Tires should handle fine, but take the mountain passes slowly. I will. I guess this is goodbye then. I guess it is. What will you do now? She asked. For now, this suits my purposes. She nodded, scanning my face as if committing it to memory. You know where to find me if you ever want to talk. No pressure, no expectations. I know. I reached into my pocket. I have something for you. I handed her my first journal, the worn notebook where I'd processed everything. Michael, I can't. I want you to have it. Maybe it'll help you understand everything. Her fingers trembled slightly as she accepted it. Impulsively, she rose on tiptoes and kissed my cheek, a ghost of familiar intimacy that I neither welcomed nor rejected. Be happy, Michael, she whispered. That's all I want for you now. I watched from the lodge steps as she drove away, snow swirling in her wake until her taillights vanished around the mountain curve. That night, I began a new journal. The first entry was direct: today I buried the past. Not with forgiveness, I'm not there yet, but with clarity. We were both flawed in different ways. Now we're both rebuilding in different places. That will have to suffice. 2 weeks later, my phone rang with Tommy's voice, uncharacteristically tentative. Mike, you sitting down? My body tensed. What happened? It's Lora. She was in an accident on I-25 outside Denver. Head-on collision with a drunk driver. The world shifted momentarily. Is she? She's alive, but it's critical. Multiple surgeries. They're uncertain. He paused. Her sister Emma requested your number. Said Laura's been asking for you. I found myself checking flight times even as we spoke. Give Emma my number. Emma called an hour later, her voice raw from crying. Michael, I don't know if you'll come, but she keeps asking for you. The doctors say we should prepare for the worst. After pacing my cabin for hours, wrestling with conflicting impulses, I made my decision. I would visit briefly, make my peace, and return to Montana without being drawn back into emotional entanglement. The flight to Denver gave me time to prepare mentally. Clean, controlled, conclusive. Emma met me at the hospital entrance, embracing me tightly despite our previously distant relationship. Thank you for coming, she whispered. The woman in the hospital bed barely resembled the Lora I remembered. Her face was mottled with bruises, one eye swollen shut. Tubes and wires connected her to various machines. I approached deliberately, taking the chair beside her bed. After brief consideration, I placed my fingers against her uninjured hand. Her uncovered eye fluttered open. Recognition dawned slowly through the medication haze. Michael, she whispered. You came. I came. Didn't think you would. I needed closure. A small smile touched her cracked lips. Always honest. I sat with her through the afternoon, maintaining emotional distance while providing the human contact she clearly needed. When I stepped out for the evening rounds, Emma confronted me in the waiting area. I'm returning to Montana tomorrow, I stated. I can't be part of this situation long term. So you're just going to leave her when she might be dying? I'm not responsible for her recovery. I came to say goodbye properly. That's all I can offer. When I returned to Laura's room, she was awake, watching the door as if expecting me. You're leaving, she said immediately. Tomorrow morning. She nodded slightly, wincing. I understand. You've rebuilt your life. I have no place in it. Before you go, she continued, gathering energy, did you read my journal? The one I left at your cabin? I shook my head. Not yet. Please do. When you're ready. I need you to understand why I did what I did. Not to excuse it, but to explain. She gestured weakly toward the bedside cabinet. Top drawer. I have something for you. Inside was a manila envelope with my name. Open it later when you're home. I pocketed it without examining it. I should go. Let you rest. Will I see you before you leave tomorrow? I considered lying, then gave her truth. No, this is goodbye, Lora. She nodded, a single tear escaping. I understand. Thank you for coming at all. Take care of yourself, Lora. You too, Michael. Be happy. You deserve it. That night in my hotel room, I opened the envelope. Inside was a property transfer deed for a small cabin on 10 acres near Estes Park, purchased 6 months ago and now being transferred to me. Her note read, "This was meant to be a peace offering when I found you, a place where you could ride away from everything. Now I want you to have it without conditions. It's yours whether you ever speak to me again or not." I stared at the documents, conflicted. After consideration, I decided to keep the papers. The choice would be mine alone. Rachel met me at the small airport the next morning, leaning against her truck with casual confidence. "Welcome back. Everything handled?" "Permanently," I replied, tossing my duffel into the truck bed. "You look different. Lighter somehow." I made some necessary decisions. "About your ex or about your future?" "Both." She nodded, understanding the distinction. "Speaking of futures, there's an instructor position opening at the Mountain Rescue Training Center near Whitefish. If you're planning to stick around." "I am." She smiled genuinely. "Glad to hear it. I'd hate to lose my best survival instructor." "Is that all you'd hate to lose?" I asked, surprising myself with the directness. Her eyes widened before she recovered. "That depends on what's being offered." "Dinner tonight. Just us." "I think that could be arranged." 2 weeks later, I received a brief message from Emma, "Laura's out of critical condition. Long recovery ahead, but doctors are cautiously optimistic." I read it once, then deleted it without responding. That chapter was closed. The same day, I accepted the position at the Mountain Rescue Training Center and signed the papers accepting ownership of the Estes Park cabin. Not as a connection to Lora, but as an asset I could use on my own terms. That night, Rachel and I hiked to a ridge overlooking Flathead Lake. The sunset painted the frozen surface in brilliant oranges and reds. "Beautiful view," she commented, standing close enough that our shoulders touched. "New perspective," I replied, understanding we were talking about more than just the landscape. She turned to face me. "Is this really what you want, Michael? No lingering ghosts?" I considered the question seriously. "I've dealt with my ghosts. Made peace with the past. I'm ready for what's next." "And what is next?" I gestured toward the vast wilderness before us. "This. Now. The life I've chosen, not the one I lost." "I can work with that," she smiled. As the last light faded from the sky, I felt the final weight of my old life lift away. I had disappeared once out of necessity. Now I was reappearing by choice, stronger, clearer, and entirely on my own terms. It was enough. More than enough.